we're all called to something. We're all called to work.
Right.
And that work could look completely different for each person.
Right.
But whether it's a job or as a business owner or as a parent, I mean, these are all key works that we have to be a part of. I think that's the neat thing about it, is there's not a bar, so to speak, as far as you have to have been in business for so long, or there's not anything particular that we're looking for. It's just, is this the right topic? Is this the right speaker for that? And is this the right message? Yes, we need to set our goals and what we want to be a part of to make us greater than, but that's being a part of the community.
Right.
And the community is, how are you serving in excellence at work? How are you serving in excellence in your family?
Right.
How are you serving in excellence in your church community? What does your church need?
Yeah, and that word excellence, I think a lot of people take it to mean perfection. And my definition is truly not that. It boils down to, am I giving it my 100% at all times? Whatever God has called me to do, am I giving everything that He's already blessed me with, all the tools and everything like that? Am I using all those things now? And I think some people can get caught up with it meaning that I have to do something where I'm, contributing to a cause or helping the needy or doing whatever. But sometimes God is calling you to make a boatload of cash. Like, that could be the call for you. It's, what is He asking you to do with that boatload of cash?
That's good.
Is it supporting your local church? Is it supporting the needs of others? Is it whatever? Is it enabling you to now go out into the mission field and do things and bless other people in other countries? Is it calling you to adopt? I mean, there's so many things.
Wow. And that's what's neat, is that each person's call is different.
Right.
So if it is that, what are you doing with it? And because everybody has a God-given purpose and a God-given talent, and they have giftings that are unique to them.
Right.
And that's what's neat. So we have to stop comparing ourselves with what others have as far as their giftings, because that's not going to lead us anywhere wonderful.
And that's such a great point, because I think in this society, it's keeping up with the whomevers and comparing and status symbols and all that stuff, but simply helping somebody else achieve the call that they've, like, how can I support you in what God's called you to do? Sometimes it's their call, they need to go do it on their own, but a lot of times people need help and support and encouragement and all of those things. How can we do that, and how can we now celebrate success of a brother or sister?
That's a really good point. And in that, a lot of times we'll get a skewed perspective of, I need to go out and make a difference. I need to have thousands of people following behind me, but that's not where relationships are.
Right.
You can't have a relationship with thousands of people. You can have a relationship with one person.
Right.
You can have a relationship with a select few. If you're not pouring into those intimately, to be able to have that true relationship where change can transform you, and that's really the core of being greater than.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's neat, is as others start to uncover that for themselves and where they can be a part, and what that looks like. Maybe it's not a conference, maybe it's just getting together with a group of people, but whatever that looks like, that's still taking the opportunity, and maybe there's a cause that's already there that they can be a part of. They have a particular set of skills that they're able to apply, right? So, that's going to be neat to see, is when people say, wait a minute, I have all of these talents and all I'm using them for is this one particular thing, but there's a need over here and they're not doing this that well, but that happens to be my skill set. So how can I go and help make that excellent as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think for me, one of the rewarding parts of this is looking over the crowd and seeing somebody have like that aha moment, like, oh wow, that's good, writing it down, or seeing relationships being built, at one of our break times. I'm like, this is why we do it. Like, that's the whole point. I think that's really the heart of what we're trying to do here at Greater Than, is trying to set up the generation, not only behind us, but behind them and down the road, because we have vision for this thing to continue on well beyond us. And I didn't really think about what what the millennial generation is trying to do. They're trying to prove a point, find their way, make their mark, if you will. And with discipleship, it's difficult sometimes to now make a connection with that generation, and I couldn't figure out why. Like, why is this so hard? I'm trying to share, things that I've been through, even from like a marriage standpoint. There's young couples that I'm around, and I'm like trying to share like a piece of information. I'm like, hey, you should really look out for this. And like, oh no, that's not. I'm like, I've been through it. I know you're going to go through it as well.
That's a good point. It's almost like two different languages.
Right.
People always talk about how men and women speak differently and how they hear things differently. I think that's true, but it's also true between generations.
Yes.
I think that was one of the amazing points that was brought up this last time in the conferences. You don't have to start from scratch. And if you're smart and you don't want to waste a bunch of years of your life, that's right. You won't have to do that. You can just you can go and talk to someone and say, hey, how'd you do this?
Right.
And it's amazing how receptive those who have been through it are wanting to share that.
Absolutely. And I think innately we all have the desire to share. Like we all want to share our story, because everybody has one. And I know the struggles and what it takes to now plant that flag and build that foundation for my family and my kids, so that it's going to be a generation that knows God and walks with God. I'm setting that table, if you will, and I think that same thing crosses over into business. And I think what you said there was really key, being humble enough to do that. And I think that works on both sides, mentor and mentee. Yeah. Like, well, they need to come up and ask me. Well, if they don't know that you're open to that,
right? Then
and it goes both ways. Because my assumption is nobody's asking me, so they must not want it. But I think through all the conferences, we've learned that there is a need there, and how do we break down that barrier?
That's great. Yeah, and I think that's one thing that's awesome to see and helping to be able to support is to ignite those who wouldn't think that they have enough experience to share what they're going through, but
right.
Just because they're younger. I mean, Jesus was in his early 30s when he did his ministry, and most people would probably not listen to someone who's in their early 30s now for advice. But I think that's what's key now is to be able to look at who are those younger people and give them a platform to be able to express what they have learned and to be able to share, because there's some valuable insight for those who are going through it now.
Absolutely.
And being able to enable them to have a voice helps enable them and to help prepare them so that they can be in that position. But I think the other thing as well is that it's not just about sharing what you've learned at this point, but it's positioning yourself. And I think that's the key for the next generation, is to understand they have to be connected to someone else. And I think that's a really humbling perspective.
Sure.
To become greater than is to reach out. And we know that there's the challenges of speaking to the next generation just because of different life experiences and growing up in a different culture.
Right.
But if you can take that humility and reach out, it's amazing how the response is, because everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be shown as valuable. And I think that's one thing that's an area of gap that Greater Than starts to fill, is helping those who do have that experience to realize the most practical way of helping is looking who's behind you and who's around you, and being able to share that. And that's tremendous, because that's probably one of the best motivators to get people to start talking.
Absolutely. The more you can be vulnerable and share something on that side, now you're going to spark others to want to be vulnerable and share. And like you're saying, that's how that relationship begins and starts, and where it goes from there, you never know. But for me, Greater Than is that ignition point. Boom.
And it's a wrap.
Wrap that up. Cool. Yeah.
Feeling like an early lunch?
Let's do it. Oh, really early.